What is up, Retro Maniacs? Welcome to the Retro Card Chat Podcast. I'm still Mike. I'm still from Mike's Retro Trading Cards, and I'm joined by two men that always have my back. Now, keep in mind, if something goes down, I'm still going to get my butt beat because they're really not going to be any help. But their names are Joe Day and EP Eric Pahalik. How you doing, guys?
Well, that's hurtful, number one.
It's true.
Well, I would push EP. Here. I would push EP into the group, and I would run as best as I could with a broken foot, recovering from a broken foot. But yeah, I think we could.
I'm from Catawissa. I'm scrappy. Listen.
And by the way, I don't think Joe. I don't think you could ever run, Joe. I don't remember you being much of a runner. So you talk your way out of it, I'm sure, but you wouldn't be able to run away. No.
Just for the viewers, I have beaten both of these men in tennis numerous times. I just want you to know that. Not that that's that's helpful.
Yep, that'll help you. That'll totally help you in a street fight.
Maybe if you have a tennis racket with you, it might help you, but I don't know.
I haven't played in a while.
So. You're like, wait a second, I gotta go get something for my car.
I gotta get something. Drive to Pittsburgh, grab my racket.
Remember when EP used to have like a ball or a way to play any single sport you could ever dream of, all in the trunk of his car?
What do you mean? What do you mean used to?
Now you have a bigger car too. You have a bigger trunk.
Yes.
So you have all kinds of sports in there now, right?
Yeah.
One of the most unathletic people I've ever met has every way to play a sport ever.
Oh man.
Just a little news for me. The mother-in-law is on her way in from Central PA. She's about 5 and a half hours away. So I need a drink. Let me just crack that open. And I might get a second one. I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna be a week.
What's new, EP?
Well, I have an unscripted segment for you guys. I don't think it's going to take super long. I don't think it's going to take a super long amount of time. That's why I didn't suggest it. I didn't want to plan for it. But
we're up for it.
You know I love Allen and Ginter, right? Because you're familiar with Allen and Ginter. For anybody, viewers who don't know, it is a baseball card set that includes stuff like Attila the Hun. It includes just a bunch of random stuff, really cool stuff. But they released, I saw a list of all of the one-of-ones, like the cut auto one-of-ones from the set. And it's a really cool list. After I'm done reading it, I want you guys to come up with who you would want to be in it. Either somebody who was like a fictional character or a live person, or any sort of like position or something like that, President of the United States, whatever. So just think about that as I'm reading these. So these are the one-of-one autographs that are available in the set.
All right.
Aretha Franklin, Audrey Hepburn, Charlie Chaplin, Chris Farley, David Bowie, Ernest Hemingway, Edmund Hillary, George Gershwin, George Harrison, Johnny Cash, John Lennon, John Spencer, Louis Armstrong, Orville Wright, Ronald Reagan, Samuel Adams, Sean Connery, Steve McQueen, Thomas Edison, and Walt Disney. And those are the one-on-one autographs you can pull out of this. And then in replies to this tweet that I saw from Jason Werfel, somebody said on Reddit they saw one person pull the Thomas Edison one-of-one cut auto and a Derek Jeter mini auto from from back-to-back boxes. They opened two boxes. They got the Thomas Edison and a Jeter.
Was it Backyard Breaks?
So, no, it doesn't say. It could be. They don't say who it was, but it very well
done. Well done.
Just wondering.
Wait, so you're asking us which one-of-one we would want?
If you want to do that, you can. That's fine. But which one-of-one that's not on this list? Also, like who's like this? What's an icon or a weird person, like subject or something like that you want to have a one-of-one in it? What one person would make you say, I'm going to buy a box of Allen Ginter, see if I can get that one-of-one?
Ooh, good question. I will say if I'm going to take one of those one-of-ones, if I was just going to have it for my personal collection and not sell it, obviously, I think it'd be Sir Edmund Hillary, which sounds random.
Right.
He first person to climb Mount Everest. And little known fact about Joe Day, I actually spent a night at the base camp of Mount Everest. So I think that would be a cool little connection. Why not?
And floating around the universe somewhere is a picture of Joe Day riding on a yak.
Yes, there is. Since I went off
Okay.
Facebook, I don't know if you can find it anymore since I'm not on Facebook. But yes, there is.
I'll find it. If I find it, it's going to be on this podcast.
And I think we ate that yak later in the trip.
Oh, how'd you get back if you ate the yak?
In the process, fine. It's fine.
It seems like pulling into Walmart and eating your tire. I don't know. Like, not a good idea, maybe. I think I'd go with Nikola Tesla.
Ah, interesting. Very interesting.
Makes
I'm
sense.
kind of
That's awesome.
fascinated
Makes
by
sense
him
for you.
and like all of his innovation and all the things he invented and didn't get credit for and stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yep.
I don't like Thomas Edison. He just
Yeah.
stole
Right,
ideas from
right.
other people. So I'm pro Tesla in that camp, not just because I drive one either, just because I'm fascinated by the man.
You guys, Mike, I don't think you watch cartoons, but there was actually a great Bob's Burgers episode where they talked about how great Nicholas Tesla
watch-
was and how terrible Thomas Edison is. So I think that if I could think of,
I
one
don't watch
cartoon where you
cartoons. I mean,
You don't?
only Family Guy, American Dad. Like, holy cow!
then you should
come
watch
on,
Bob's
man.
Burgers.
I have watched a lot of Bob's.
Oh, have you?
Burgers. I
Okay.
haven't. Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
Good. All right. Good.
We were
Come
talking
on,
about Beavis and Butthead yesterday, actually.
True.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
True.
cool. Come on, don't paint me in that light.
I'm hip. I'm hip.
Look at me. I'm hip. I'm really hip.
What's your 101 EP?
Well, I
which
mean, I
one
think-
would you like to
I
see
think,
in
like,
this set?
I think like the two of them that I would really think about like right away are both in this list: Chris Farley and Sean Connery. Like,
Yeah, Sean
I think
Connery's a great one.
they're both great 101s. Like they're, I mean,
David Bowie too. I
Oh,
think
yeah,
that
that's
one's
a
really
cool
cool
one, yeah.
too.
And for me, I'd love to see. He's still alive, so Patrick Stewart. He's probably one of my favorites. I'd love in pop culture to. I'd like to get an autograph of his, but you can. There are plenty available. So
Well, one cut autograph I don't think I want on an Allen Ginter card is a Nat Turner card.
look at that transition. Look at
I
that.
did it. I did it. Yes.
well
But
done.
anyway, I want to update everybody on the Nat Turner PSA 10 situation that we had last week. Some content creators calling out saying people probably won't update the story, but we update the story here for our viewers. Turns out that the PSA 10 triumvirate Michael Jordan card, what looked like a tear on the front of the card was actually part of the story as part of a peel that is used in the manufacturing process that wasn't supposed to be on the card. Nat actually released a video of the grater. He was taking a video of the grater standing right over his shoulder, peeling off the piece of the film that was on it, and said that's all it was. Look, everything's all good. No problem. Nothing to see here. Let's start with some reactions. What is your reaction to the video and to what it turned out to be?
EP.
No, go, Joe. You got to start. Go ahead.
I
refuse.
Reaction to the video. Reaction to the video. I mean, I'm Mr. PSA. We all know this. But
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I said before we started recording for the pod, I said it really felt like Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain. Pay no attention as I'm taking this video, as your boss. And could you imagine how nervous that grader was? and
Yeah.
just some takeaways too from the video, and we'll talk about some other content creators here, I'm sure, but like not wearing any gloves was strange to me. Like picking at, like, I wonder how many fingernail marks are on that piece right now after he was like hitting it with his fingernail the whole time. Like it was so weird. And again, really, really tone deaf. Like, I'm the owner of this company. I'm going to come in. You guys are giving me crap for this. So I'm going to come in. I'm going to have a grater, crack it out, pull this piece off, and then put it at 10. Was it actually regraded after that? I think you asked that question, Mike. Was it actually regraded?
Yeah.
Or was
and
it
he
like,
didn't
oh,
answer that question, so we don't know. Yeah.
And he
But it
answers
should be.
everything. He answers everything. So if he didn't answer that silence is deafening on that one.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like the thread that it was in, it wasn't like it was Taylor Swift doing an Ask Me Anything on Twitter. It was like there were only so many comments, and I feel like that was a legitimate question. I wasn't trying to be any kind of a way, but as somebody who uses their service, I'm a collector. I was curious, was the card regraded? And the other question I had was, we have film on like finest cards and stuff from the 90s. What if I decided to peel one off and there was a little piece left on the corner? Are they going to peel that off for me? Are they going to, deduct from the grade because I left a little part of the peel in the corner? Like he was saying that, oh, well, this is a peel that's used in the manufacturing process, like to protect it from being cut. Okay, fair enough. But like, where do you draw that line then? Because the peels that were on the cards back then were to protect them from being destroyed, like being in packs rubbing against, so the surface didn't get worn. And now they grade the surface of the peel, and like I don't know how you can really, like, yes, okay, technically there's a difference there, but in actuality, is that peel really any different than the peel that's on there for the collector? We're 20 years past when the first ones were introduced, but at the time I'm pretty sure that Topps figured, oh, people will just peel these off and throw them away and their cards will look beautiful. There was no thought of keeping them on, so they weren't meant to be left on the card either. So how do you differentiate that now? Why are you grading the peel on that and not grading this? And I also think that the fact that that was still left on there and graded, and they saw what it was and they took it off, meant that they didn't actually grade that card. I still feel like there's a high likelihood they saw it was a BGS 9.5 and they just crossed it over to a 10. And he can say
because it was Nat's card.
Yeah, exactly.
They do not do that. From the horror stories I've seen of people on YouTube doing crossovers, they at best get a 9 on a 9.5. They always tell you crack them because the PSA is going to look at a 9.5 and automatically give it a 9 because it's from another company. So if they're going to grade it a 10 with that peel on, what is it now, an 11? The peel's off, exactly. Like, can you go higher than a 10? Because if it was a 10 with the peel on, it's got to be even better now, right?
And the fact that Nat's standing there with the grader taking a video kind of makes it a little harder to believe that all his submissions go through anonymously. Like, he clearly has access to walk into the grading room with the grader and see what's being done. Not saying that happens with his cards, but he didn't seem to realize it, showing that he can do this, which, I mean, who's surprised by that? He owns the company. Of course he can do that. Why wouldn't he be able to do that? But it does make it hard as a regular collector to believe that his cards go through the same anonymous process as everybody else. And, call me a conspiracy theorist or whatever, I don't think so. I think I'm a potential customer, a customer of the company that has a legitimate question, and I feel you have to ask the question. Go ahead, Ethan.
Yeah. The bottom line is, if he did it this one time, he could do it anytime. Like you were saying, like, and anybody who's had their boss standing over their shoulder watching you do work, like, that's not a fun experience, right? Like, you're not gonna be critical of something that is like that is their baby, right? Like, if you're working on if I'm editing a story at the paper that was like written by my editor, like, I'm not gonna like tear it apart. I'm gonna look for typos and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna like I'm not gonna change
this
everything.
Story sucks.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how can you do that? And then back to your point too, Mike. Like, as I'm not a professional grader, but if I am a grader, and this peeled card still has peel on it, then it's not a peeled card anymore, and it's definitely not a 10 because this is a flaw. This is not part was supposed to be here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that really, like, it doesn't.
It's not supposed to be there, but guess what? It is. So like that. If anybody else has that card, that grader is not removing that piece of the peel for that person. Nobody's going to get that treatment by him.
The one question I did see him actually answer was someone made a comment about fingerprints. Like, you guys don't even wipe fingerprints off and you're doing this. And he responded pretty curtly that, no, they wipe the fingerprints off, and kind of like laughed it off. I'm sorry, I've been watching reveal videos or prep videos, how to send a PSA, all these for years now, since we've gotten back into it. And fingerprints on the cards, that was always something people said, wipe them off because PSA will deduct you for them. So were all those people wrong? Like, there was enough smoke that there's probably some fire with that. That if someone sent something with a perfect card and it had a fingerprint, that it was probably deducted in the grading process. So either Nat Turner is saying, no, we don't do that anymore. We don't deduct that. We'll wipe them off. SGC during their tour, one of the few times I actually watched his sports card investor video was he touring the process of SGC. And he said, we always wipe them off. Yeah. So I think it was PSA was
take off.
Yeah. And so like, I don't know, like if for years we thought you deducted for fingerprints. Now you're willing to take peels off. What if you did send a Topps Finest, Mike, and the peel was really, really bad? Is the grader going to say, oh, I bet you the card looks better under the peel, so I'm going to peel it off to give them a better grade?
No way. No way.
Like that's not happening.
Yeah.
So like it definitely feels like different strokes for different folks on this one. Like Nat Turner he's getting preferential treatment for his cards. And he should, by the way, a lot of people are like, oh, he owns the company. What can we really do? It's not illegal. If you are putting a damaged card in a slab, marking it a 10 and increasing its value, how is that not fraud? It's fraud.
Yeah,
it really
probably
is.
A really gray area though, because like there's no legal the grading process doesn't legally add any value to it. You know what I'm saying? It's just an opinion, and people are willing to pay money for opinion. I know it's shady AF, but it's not. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I have no idea. But
so
still,
if someone has a card, they trim it, they send it in, it gets graded as a trimmed card, and it slaps in there a 10. There's no legal ramifications if you go and sell that card. I have a hard time believing that too. If you're passing something off better than what it is, I don't know. That just maybe it is just shady, but that's really, really that's really shady.
Oh, definitely is shady. I mean, there's no question about that. I don't know. I mean, again, we talk all the time about transparency, and we as collectors, I don't care what any other content creators tell you, we have a right to ask these questions. First of all, if people wouldn't have done the videos calling this out, he would have never taken that card out of the case, and we would have never found any of this out. So that's a good thing. Like the fact that people question why that card is a PSA 10 and led him to have to do that. And that's a good thing. Unfortunately, we still get very little transparency. Like for me to sit here and go, okay, if I peel 96 Finest and a little piece is left, are you going to take that off for me? Are you going to ding my grade? If you do it, are you going to regrade it? Like we need to know that too. We need to know if that card you had that we all saw a guy picking with his finger at it, trying to pull that off. We need to know if it was regraded. It may have been, but it may not have been. If it was regraded, though, it was regraded with the boss standing right over his shoulder. I know I think he was trying to do the right thing, or else he was trying to show people that we're stupid for questioning him. Whatever it was, we still have the right to question him. It's important to do that. But if they would be a little more upfront about the whole process to let people know, does a fingerprint bring down your grade for the surface or not? Because, clearly if you're part of this, Nat owns the whole company. He knows people think that. So if it's not true, why not put on their website that fingerprints aren't something to grade for? I feel like they do. I don't think you have all these people saying you need to clean off fingerprints.
You don't have people wiping off their cards with microfiber and fingerprints.
Not doing that because they didn't send in one before and they got a lower grade than they should have. And I've seen people that have cracked stuff, cleaned the surface of a card, sent it back in, and gotten a higher grade. So I don't know. Like, again, just if we knew what the parameters of this game we were playing were, we could all play it more fairly, but maybe it's not designed for us to play fairly.
So Mike's way too diplomatic to name names, but I'll name names. I mean, I watched Neo, Northeast Ohio Cards and Comics video about this, and it just came across as tone deaf. Something to the effect of, I don't think it's preferential treatment in the first place. I think PSA just missed it. Okay, first off, boss over your shoulder. I think we can all agree that Nat Turner does not go through the same process that we do when he's getting his cards graded. I think it's almost stupid to say he doesn't. It really is. It's stupid to say he doesn't. And I think PSA just missed it. That's even worse. Not only is Nat Turner looking over the guy's shoulder, but now we're saying, oh, your company doesn't know how to grade cards. Like, this was so obvious. I don't care if you can't just miss that. It is so obvious when you look at just a picture of it. Can you imagine how obvious it is when you have the card in hand?
Right.
So, Neo puts out some good content, but this one was incredibly tone deaf and kind of a slap in the face to his viewers who look to him to be this voice of the everyman collector. If you're not upset about this, I have some issues with you. Like, this is something you should be upset about. It just, to me anyway, it looks tone deaf. It looks out of touch. And I really think we need to be questioning. You made the point, like, we need to be pushing back on stuff like this, or it will just keep happening. That's the problem. Yeah. It'll just keep happening.
And the problem is too, the way he phrased that was that, like, the people like us, he wasn't speaking about us, obviously, but the people that were doing videos like Sports Card Radio and Dan the Card Man, people that covered this, they're like, he used the term conspiracy theorists. Like, some people are going to hate whatever PSA is going to say anyway, but again, they're legitimate questions. Like, that bothered me because you're trying to make what people are saying illegitimate by saying conspiracy theorists. No, it's a legitimate question. That card looked like that. We wanted to know why. They peel it off. We want to know if that's normal for everybody. Like, this is not conspiracy. It's happening right in front of your face. Like, instead of making sure that you don't, tick off the boss at PSA, you want to stay on good terms with them or all the people that watch your channel that are PSA fanboys, because they're the biggest ones. So you're going to get more views if you kiss their butt instead of somebody else's. You're going to say stuff like that. And it's insulting to the people who have legitimate questions. You can't do that. If you're like, stay out of it. If you can't leave a space for the people that want to call out the questions in the hobby. And Sports Card Radio is doing a hell of a good job of it lately. And people get mad at them, but here's the facts are what they're talking about needs to be talked about. And like, if you let this stuff happen, this hobby has a long history of people scamming it. Like, people that are heads of companies have done it, and all kinds of people have gotten away with a lot of stuff. Maybe it's time with the internet and YouTube and social media to start calling these people out and trying to make them think, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't do this. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yep. Just back to your point, Joe, for a second. There's 0.0001% chance that PSA missed that on the card. Like, if they missed that on the card, it's a condemnation of that grader and of PSA, right? Like, because
fire that grader.
It's egregious. Yeah. And like that just, and then also I thought, like, if Nat Turner comes in one time, stands over one grader's shoulder one time, that means anytime any of his cards are in there, there's a chance. And every grader that was in that room knows there was a chance that he's going to walk in and start recording you doing your job. And tell me that does not affect how you grade his cards.
Right. And Northeast Ohio Cards and Comics was very dismissive too about the I'm sure people complained that he wasn't wearing gloves. That's why I made the comment earlier that, but again, a legitimate question. Why isn't he wearing so if I send in a very expensive Tom Brady card that I wiped off, I cleaned up, I sent in, is he just going to handle it like it's a 25-cent card? Seriously? Like that's another legitimate question. And someone put in the comments of the video, it seems like Nat must be paying you for PR services. And I kind of chuckled at that because he was doing the PR type of thing, like deflecting the actual legitimacy of these questions and talking down to the people who think there is actually something there. Because, spoiler alert, there's something there.
Yeah.
Maybe that makes all the graders burn their fingerprints off, so they can't get any fingerprints on the cards.
That could be that'd be a good plan. All right, well, I think that's all we really need to say about that at the moment. We'll move on a little bit here. Want to talk a little bit quickly. The high-end card market is continuing to crash. Call it a correction, call it a crash, call it a decline, whatever you want to call it. But the Luka 2018 National Treasures 1/1 rookie patch autograph sold for $3.12 million at auction. I was really interested in seeing what this went for. It sold for $4.6 million last year. So the buyer of it lost a cool $1.5 million in a year's time.
Joe, was that you?
Was it you?
No, I was gonna say, let me catch the tears I have for someone who spent $4 million on a card. Hold on a second.
There was also a LeBron James exquisite RPA. It was a great story behind that. There was a kid that bought that card in 2003 for $5,000, thinking that, someday this is going to be worth a lot of money. And they anticipated that the value would probably go for around $2 million. Well, it sold for $885,000. So, which is still a nice win. But then again, he sold it a year ago, he probably would have doubled his money. So that's money lost. But I just we see it over and over again. Like a couple of Jordan PSA 10s went for even lower than the last time we talked about it. It's clearly a sign that the big money is leaving the hobby. People can say whatever they want to. I see a lot of people that are like, yeah, but it's up from, it is, but we're on our way down and we don't know how far down it's going to go. So, and unless the thing is, a lot of people that got into this hobby weren't buying these things in 2019 when they were at that low price. So you can try to, spin it any way you want to, but the big money is leaving the hobby. This is the start of it. Like the people that jumped in, made this stuff shoot up because all these people that had money were jumping in, getting in these investments, pumping, then dropping the cards off and getting out of it. They're getting out of it now. So, I
pump and dump.
I'm a little, that's the beginning of this. Like I would be really concerned if I owned high-end cards. And again, just an example, things do not always continue to rise. If you get in at the top, you're screwed. Just like anything, you have to realize, I'm sure that Luka person probably thought, you know what, if I don't sell it now, I'm going to lose $3 million on it. So $1.5 million might be a win for him,
Yeah.
I guess
I say I was going to defer for first response to our big money man, Eric Bowick.
Yeah,
I was going to say this affects me greatly. Like I'm very worried about all of my high end stuff. Like my high end cards are really they're taking a hit, and my value is way down. The vault that I have in the back,
portfolio is
rough.
I should empty out my vault that I have at the bank.
You probably should. Get out while the getting's good.
The thing is, we've all been in this a long time. Mike probably knows this better than even me and Joe. It's like this happens in cycles all the time.
Yeah,
cards go up in value and then they go down in value. When they come back down, they usually end just a little bit above where they were before, and that's probably where we're going to end up, just a little bit above like 2018 prices at some point. Like that, and it's just going to keep falling to that point. It's a natural way things work, and I just like you need to pay attention to that when you're buying and selling cards. You never buy when it's at the absolute peak. You try to buy when it's down just above where it was a couple 10 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever. That's what you need to do.
And I think
go ahead, Joe.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say, I think a lot of us, myself included, we got caught up, EP and I both got caught up in Marvel cards, at closer to the high than the low, but we're not talking about $1 million cards. We're talking, we might have lost a couple $100 here and there.
$300 box. Yeah.
$300 box. I got a lot of my money back from selling singles and from my PSA submission, but still, I probably lost a couple of bucks on that, but we're not talking these high dollar cards because millions of dollars. And Mike, you're 100% right. They are at this point, that guy who lost $1 million, he might have made out way better now than he would 6 months from now, or a year from now.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's why. Like, I feel like he probably realized that, you know what, I bought this at the top. I better get rid of this while I can get something back out of it. And
It's always dangerous, by the way, buying people that are still active. I'm just gonna, not to interrupt, but buying players that are still active is so dangerous because they could have a fall.
It's the most gambly.
Yeah. Oh,
most
yeah,
gambly.
absolutely.
Yep.
But that's why people like the appeal of that, because if they get hot and they shoot up, like it's all playing the market. But yeah, I mean, and this stuff's not going to be worthless. Like, again, like, just like everything that happens in this country, if you look at YouTube, you can see like people make, it's all going to zero, and people making fun of people saying it's going to zero. And like, no, it's not. Like, these cards are always going to have value. They're just not. If you paid $4.5 million for a card that's now worth 3.1,
again, I have no sympathy for you.
That, but it's still going to be a valuable card. Yeah. But people are going to lose a lot of money on it that bought at the peak. And listen to us. They let you buy them back. When things go up, sell them when they're high.
We've been saying that since the first episode, I think.
Touch them. Wait till they go back down. Yeah. When you get comfortable with that price, you're like, I think that's a pretty good deal here. I'm willing to go in. Yeah, that's when you buy it. So,
and just a real world example of that. I mean, I really like Doctor Strange. I'm a big Doctor Strange fan, and you guys were at a card show, which I think we're doing a video on here shortly. You guys were at a card show and there was a Doctor Strange PMG. Really, really wanted it. It was for $1,000. I'm like, it'll be cheaper. It'll be cheaper in 6 months. I like, there's enough of them out there. It's not like, oh no, I can't wait. I have to get this one. You can wait. And to EP's point about going up and down, people want to refer to cards as the stock market, kind of their stock market. If you don't, the stock market does the same thing. Like, this is not rocket science, right? The stock market does the same exact thing. So if you want to treat cards like a stock market, cool, but you have to realize the stock market also goes up and down. Yeah. So you have to get used to it with the cards.
Well, speaking of, okay, never mind. I'm not even going to.
I was waiting for another great transition.
I don't have one. But anyway, we talked a couple weeks ago, I think it was now, about the fractional share website called Collectible and the PSA 8 Mickey Mantle. At the time, I said they were offered 1.8 million. Apparently, it was 1.4. I don't know if we got that wrong. I'm pretty sure when I looked up the information when I first saw it, it said 1.8. But we discussed whether you would sell it or not. Well, it turns out that the owners of that decided not to sell the card. And we also talked about another one that was going to be up for auction. That card actually just sold. The other one that was going to be auctioned sold for 1.47 million. So not a whole lot to talk about here. I mean, they're right. They were right on value pretty much with that offer of 1.4. But I did think it was interesting that it was rejected. And I feel like, we talked a little bit about how the people that have their money invested in that are buying shares, probably it's more of a long-term hold for them anyway. So I think they made the right decision there. That card will probably be worth a little more in the future, right?
So
my dog's going crazy.
Yeah, your dogs are going nuts. At the original 1.8, as we were discussing it the first time, that original 1.8 price tag, I think we were right, or I think Mike and I might have. I forget who said to sell and who said.
I said so. I definitely said so.
Yeah, at the 1.8, we were right. I mean, because we were all concerned about the 1.4, the other auction being at 1 point below that, right? Yeah. We were like, sell it at the 1.8. Now, knowing they were offered 1.4, I think they did make the right decision, because the 1.47 is now the benchmark. Right. So someone could come in and offer them 1.5, 1.6. So, they made the right call with the 1.4 offer. I probably would have still sold, but
so would I. I would have voted
1.4. Yeah. I mean, that was a spot on price. That was a spot on offer.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to watch. I'll try to keep my eye on that and see if any more news comes out. But speaking of good decisions.
Yes.
Blake Martinez.
Killing it.
Linebacker, except I could totally miss the transition on the last one. But anyway, Blake Martinez, the linebacker for the Raiders, is apparently retiring because he's going to sell Pokemon cards.
Smart.
And the man sold a $672,000 Pokemon card recently, which happened to be twice his yearly salary to go out on the field and get beat up playing football. And he's decided he's going to retire and most likely sell Pokemon cards for a living. Good for him. Like, that's a good decision right there.
That's the dream, right?
Yeah.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
I will say if I was him, he probably had a couple more years left in the NFL, I would guess. You know, he wasn't a highly touted player. I think he was a later round pick, and he's bounced around a little bit, veterans minimum type of player. But I probably would have done both. I mean, Pokemon is one of those markets. I don't follow it that often, but I've talked to you guys a little bit about it. Like, it seems like it's more evergreen than other things. Like, it seems like that market is more stable. I could be completely wrong. I honestly don't know, but that's one of those deals where maybe he could have finished out his contract, got that money. But we're all huge fantasy football fans and we all love football, but concussions you don't know the long-term effect. So get out while the getting's good. And if you can make money doing that, good for him.
Can't fault anybody for doing that.
Nope.
No. He's a linebacker too. So I mean, he's out there like his job
he's
is
out
to
there really throwing
middle linebacker. He's out
like
there. He's trying to hit a running back who's trying to hit him. A lot of the running backs trying to hit him as hard as they're hitting him, and so or as he wants to hit them. So like I have no problem. Again, I think he was, like I said, I think he was 28 years old. He was actually a Giant. He was at one point, and he was a Green Bay Packer. And like there were a few moments where maybe he was going to be like a star linebacker, middle linebacker, but never, or at least a starting middle linebacker. Never kind of panned out. But yeah, I don't blame him at all. Like the way all the research, all the studies and everything on CTE, especially as a linebacker, you know, if he has another out and he doesn't have the passion for it,
played the same position that Junior
cards.
Yeah, and
played the same position that Junior Seau played. To be honest, you know,
and I think
got to think about that a little bit.
Yeah, and you know, if he has, and one of the things is, if he doesn't have the passion for it, if he doesn't have that drive, he's even more likely to get hurt playing the game. So, you know, if he has that thought, if that pops into his head, and he has that opportunity, you know, go do it and, you know, have fun with it. And to your point, Joe, about the Pokemon cards, they shot up quite a bit. Like the PSA 10 shot up quite a bit during the big boom. They've come back down, but for the most part, their cards hold pretty good value, especially the unopened stuff and the really high end stuff. I think is held pretty well.
We all got duped, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Every time we talk about Pokemon cards, we have to play that.
We all got duped.
Right? We all got duped.
Well, yeah. Speaking of how stable the Pokemon market is, apparently the Magic card market is not.
Wow.
But yeah, I know. I'm getting good. I'm telling you, I'm going to leave you guys. I'm just going to write transitions for TV shows. Anyway, Rudy, my buddy,
I think there's a lot of money in
that. There is. I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe it doesn't pay as much as this game. Maybe, I don't know.
Probably not even a real job, but you know, like I said.
But in our content creator video that we shared a little while back, I talked about Rudy from Alpha Investments. He's Magic the Gathering and Pokemon card guy, but he's so entertaining, and the guy knows his stuff, and he knows like markets, and like he's just a fantastic video. There are people out there in the Magic community that hate him, just like anything. People get popular like that, but I like him. I like the advice he gives, and he broke the story this week pretty much about Hasbro stock has been tumbling. It's worth maybe about half of what it was worth before. And the analyst said that the reason that they've been downgraded so much is the fact that they have been overprinting Magic the Gathering cards, and they are ruining the market that they have for them. This has caused, quite a bit of chatter in the online community about stuff. A lot of people talked about it with sports cards because really, there's a lesson to be learned. It doesn't matter that it's just Magic the Gathering cards. It's kind of fascinating to me that, Wizards of the Coast was bought out by Hasbro. So all this is public information since they're a publicly traded company. Would have been really cool if Fanatics wouldn't have jumped in and stole Topps away because they were taking Topps public. And we would have actually gotten a lot of information about Topps if they would have been a publicly traded company that we're never going to get when they're privately held. But this got me to thinking, I had a card shop from 1991 until 2004. Yes, we know, Mike, you say it all the time. But, I was there in the junk wax era, and I always tell people, we didn't know it was the junk wax era at the time. I remember 1992 tops selling for well above what the suggested retail was. I remember driving to shows and buying like 92 Fleer cello packs because they had the all-star inserts in them or something. And I was selling them for like $5 a pack at my shop. I think they were supposed to be $2 a pack suggested retail. I remember the Shaq rookie card craze. You could not even find Stadium Club basketball. You couldn't find Flair Ultra basketball. All this stuff now that's considered junk wax was so popular at the time. And I really feel like now in 2022, we're in another junk wax era. And all the people that are laughing about it are just like we were back in the early 90s. Like if you would have said, oh, this stuff is never going to be worth anything, you're crazy, because look at it. Like everybody wants it. Everybody's buying cards, but then, everybody that buys cards end up getting out of it, and we see what's left over. Now, not going to be the same level because we're at a different level pricing wise. They're not going to be $5 a box. But when you look at like retail, you look at Target, you look at Walmart, you walk into them now, guess what? They're full of cards. People can actually buy cards. Why is that? Is because
he buys plenty.
It's because they're making more of it and not as many people are buying it. This is what happens. You can deny it all you want to, but we are in another junk wax era. There's going to be a lot of stuff from this time period. It's not going to be worthless, but again, it's not going to sell in the future for anywhere near what it sells for now. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about this. Do you guys agree? What do you think? Am I right? Am I wrong? We know I'm right?
Yeah, I agree
Right.
100%. Like there's no doubt about it. Like the thing is, like, and you said about how the price is not going to be $5 a box, but that's because like income and prices of boxes are way more than they were back then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's all relative. So I mean, yeah, you could. I'm still saying we're going to get like be able to get Prism boxes like super duper cheap. Like the current like high end stuff's going to end up being like very similar. It again adjusted based on income and inflation, all that sort of stuff. It's going to be similar. You're going to be able to get those kinds of deals on a lot of this stuff in 5-10 years. Like it's going to again cyclical, just like we talked about with the prices change, the high end stuff change, the prices of high end stuff changing, like the cyclical. And I wish it wasn't. I wish we didn't have every few years have them just print 800 billion copies of everything. But it seems like that's where we are, right?
And I'll give us a little bit of a pass on junk wax because there wasn't an internet back then. Like we would probably be a little bit more informed. That's what makes this era a little bit more like head scratching. It's like, well, we see how much they print. We see pictures all the time of all the product at Walmart and Target. We see that they're not selling out on Panini's website when they drop a new product. We can see all that stuff now. We see some of the odds that they put out. We see some of the amount of cases they're putting out. We didn't see that back in the 90s. So for us, it was a little different. I mean, whatever our bubble was of where we bought from, where we collected from, was very small. I mean, eBay wasn't even really a thing, hardcore back then. So like, I'm going to give us junk wax people a little bit of a pass because back then we had no idea how much they were printing. We couldn't see any testimonial or even anecdotal evidence online of all the stuff that was coming out. So yeah, we had so much less information back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and even into the mid 90s than we do now. That it makes me wonder how people are so oblivious to seeing it now. Like we have that information. I mean, the companies do a decent job of keeping some of it under wraps, but there's a lot of internet sleuths out there that are good at getting that information. So yeah, I'm kind of shocked people are just letting it kind of go past them.
And it's not every product. Obviously, the high-end products, they're very limited. That's why they sell for tens of thousands of dollars. We're not talking about that. But if you like, I challenge anybody watching this to think about a couple things. Have more collectors entered the market in the last couple of years?
Check.
Check, right?
Have the card companies like it just basic supply and demand that if we have more collectors, we're going to be selling more cards. We need to print more so they can buy them.
Yep.
Do we have a lot of people hoarding and putting away wax because things started to get hot and they think, okay, I'm going to put these away because 20 years from now, these are going to be worth a fortune?
Check.
All three of those things absolutely happened in the junk wax era too. You know, like I said, you couldn't find Stadium Club Basketball Series 2 for Shaq's rookie year. That stuff, you know, it's still not cheap, but like the $5 a box stuff, like the stuff was only maybe $20 a box direct, if it was that at the time. I don't think regular Tops was even $20 a box. So, you know, if you're paying $10 for a box, it dropped half its value. So, you know, $300, $400 box now that's 150 or 200, that's the same thing. We saw it too in the comic industry in the early 90s. You had whole lot of people that got into comics because, oh, there's money to be made in comics. Comics are worth money. And then the comic distributors, I mean, the printers started printing way more comic books. You had a lot of people for the first time ever buying like cases of comic books and putting them away.
Yep.
How the junk wax era happens is once the people start to leave and the people that have all this stuff put back go, oh my goodness, this stuff is not really doing what I thought it was. I need to get rid of it now before it's not worth anything. Then you have a lot of it on the market and the prices go down. It's not apples for apples, not exactly the same, but there are a lot of the same things that happened back then that are happening now. And I'm speaking as an old guy who lived through it. I've made my living selling cards. Like I saw the decline in the number of people from 1991, 92 to 1995, 96 era.
But the quality of people that came into the shop increased exponentially.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I can't argue that for a second. Some of them still hang on to this day.
Well,
but yeah.
I have just back to Joe's one point when he's talking about me buying retail. I went to the retail store on Thursday and went to a couple of big box stores on Thursday, and they were loaded, tons of stuff there. But like I avoided the like Select and Prism stuff because it's going to be 4 packs with like 4 cards per pack for like $40. I got 2 Tops Update. I'm buying them pretty much just to open, just to rip, just to have fun. I know there's a very, very good likelihood I'm not going to get anything that's going to be worth a lot of money. I bought 2 Tops Update hanger packs for $15 a piece. And that, I mean, like that and I've had some good Chrome with good luck with Topps Chrome baseball. So I bought one of their value boxes for like $60, but it's got like 10 packs in it, which is, I mean, that's a huge amount for a retail product. So like I was happy to do this.
That's a huge amount for EP. What are you
So I mean, like you want to try to. I mean, there's some out there, some product out there that I think is overpriced and is overproduced, and you're wasting your money if you're buying a lot of that stuff. Like it's a really bad scene.
Yeah. And this, to me, it's not just limited to boxes and packs. I mean, I made the comment a few pods ago that, you know, we were in a junk RPA era, right? A junk auto era. Like I'm buying, say what you will about how he's done so far in the NFL, whatever. The first quarterback taken, Kenny Pickett, I'm buying autos of him out of decent sets for less than $100. Could you imagine back in 1999 getting a Donovan McNabb or Tim Couch autograph, as tough as they were to get back then? For like the last one I bought at Kenny Pickett was $70. Like that's crazy. Like, so not only are they putting out a lot of product, but they're putting all these case hits. By the way, case hits aren't as impressive when they make so many cases, right?
Exactly.
They're putting in these, they're putting in these case hits. They're putting in these, you know, couple autographs per box. But again,
that's why they don't number them, by
boxes,
the way.
Yeah. right. It's they're just putting so much into these products, and then you make so much of the product that it's just like this perfect storm of this stuff might be worthless in 10 years.
You can go ahead and say it, Joe. What's a Kaboom going to be worth in 10 years?
hopefully $1. Hopefully that's $1.
I mean,
card.
let's not say hopefully, but I'm just saying, like, are they going to hold their value like an RPA
No,
or something like
no.
that? Yeah.
I don't think any of these. I don't think any of these quote unquote case hits are going to hold their value over the long term. Beyond the fact that they're ugly. I mean, that really. I mean, though I could say maybe in 10, 20 years, kind of like when we got out and then got back in and started looking at some of the 90s inserts, maybe people will have that nostalgia for this era of cards and kabooms. You know, if they lose value over the next 10 to 20 years, maybe in 20 years, kabooms will start getting that nostalgia factor when people are going through cards going, oh, I remember these, I'm going to buy, and they'll jump in value again. But just a lot of the case hits, a lot of the inserts, a lot of the autographs, the RPAs, they just produce so many of them. The different foils, the different numbering, the different all this on top of everything, and all they're doing is trying to disguise the fact that they overprint this stuff, and they are just flooding the market with it.
Well, I'll leave us with this little thought. Like, it's been about 20 years or so since Jerry Rice stopped playing football, right? Say here we are 20 years later. You're a collector.
For the Seahawks, by the way.
You want to look back and find a limited Jerry Rice card, a numbered Jerry Rice card, or a Jerry Rice autograph card, or a Jerry Rice autograph patch card.
Game used.
You don't,
like actual game
you
used.
don't have a lot to pick from, right? Fast forward 20 years from now, say you always loved Jamar Chase when you were younger. You didn't have money to buy his cards. Now you're out of college. You're in the middle of your life. You have a lot of disposable income. Now you want to look for low numbered or autographed or patch cards of Jamar Chase. You can buy all day long, right?
There are so many options.
So like, that's the difference between older cards and newer cards. Like, it's not just about the number they put on the back, it's how many are made. Like 20 years from now, if the person who wants to buy a really nice Jamar Chase auto now has 10,000 different options, the value is not going to be there because you don't have 10,000 people looking for that. You had that one guy, whereas Jerry Rice, you know, looking back now for a nice autograph of him, it's going to cost you money. Like, they're harder to find than they are Jamar Chase. Like, you need to understand how much product, even if it's limited, if there are, 10,000 different autographs, if there are 10,000 different patch cards, if there are 10,000 different cards numbered to 10, it's really not that special because they're not going to buy every one. They're going to buy one of those. So you're limiting the market in the future. Just because they have a low number on it doesn't mean it's a safe investment for your future.
And that's just saying autographs. I mean, Jerry Rice has one rookie card.
Yeah.
Right? Just straight up rookie card.
I didn't even go the rookie route. Yeah.
Right.
Nobody cares about rookie cards anymore.
Right. No one cares about
base
rookie
rookie.
cards.
Get that out of here.
Exactly. I need something with snake skin, with an elephant skin, number to 8.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Zebra. I need
Prism.
Disco Prism. Flash dance.
Yeah.
I feel like there might be a point in the future where people will actually be embarrassed to type that into eBay or
I'll just take the base, please.
At the time.
Please.
Yeah, like
just
show me a Jamar Chase card. I'm not saying this.
I'm not typing in snake skin. By the way, we lost our 3 subscribers who love Ultramodern. They're gone.
But, if they stuck with us this long, I appreciate you, but that was really on you. All right, guys, we'll wrap it up there. That was a good chat this week. Take care, guys.
All right.
See you.
See ya.
Yeah.